One of the first things you need to understand is the difference between a number and a digit. Let me illustrate. I'm going to write a 5-digit number and this has all 5 digits different. So from what I've already said, you have a clue already that each one of these is a digit, but the whole thing is a number. So a number can have any number of digits. This one happens to have 5. Now, a number is made up of digits in a similar way that a word is made up of letters. So just as a word can consist of a single letter like a or I, so a number can consist of a single digit like 4 or 8. So that's the difference. Numbers are made of digits, and a number can be made up of a single digit or any number of digits. Now, the fact that a number can have any number of digits can create problems, because if a number can have any number of digits, how do you know how much a particular digit is worth? Because for sure, this 5 is worth 5. This 6, though, is not worth 6. I'm sure you'd know that because of where it is, this 6 is worth 600. And this 2, the digit 2, is not worth 2. It's actually worth 2000 because of where it is. And this 7 is not worth 7, but 70,000, again, because of where it is. So you can't understand numbers until you have grasped the idea of place value. So place value is, if you like, the name that we give to the principle that a digit is worth different amounts according to which column or place it's in. Hence the value depends on the place value. Now, in order to make it clear what value each of these digits has in this number, I'm going to add some extra information to here which is not normally written when we write numbers. When we write numbers, we literally just write the digits. But to explain place value a little, I'm going to mark the columns, I'm going to label them. So I'm putting a line between each pair of digits, and I'm going to give each digit a title, or rather give each column a title, because we speak of digits being in columns. And the unwritten convention is that when you have a whole number, the digit that's furthest on the right is the units or ones column. So I'm going to label it as ones. So what this means is that in this number I have 5 ones, which of course is worth 5. Now the next column is worth 10 times the previous column. So this is the tens column. And in this number we have 0 tens. And as the next column is worth 10 times the previous column, this column is worth 10 times 10. So this is the hundreds column. So in this number we have 6 hundreds. Therefore this 6 is worth 600. The next column is worth 10 times the previous column. So it's 100 times 10, which is 1,000. So this is the thousands column. And in this number we have 2 thousands. So this digit 2 is actually worth 2,000 in this number. Then the next column is worth 10 times the previous column, which is 10 times 1,000, which is 10,000. So in this number we have 7 10,000s, which is 70,000. So if you read this number, you'd read it as 72,605. Okay, now I'm going to introduce something new. If I take the same 5 digits in the same order, 7, 2, 6, 0, 5, but add something extra, which is this dot. Now we call that the decimal point. And when it's printed, it's often at the bottom exactly where a full stop would be, so you can't tell a decimal point from a full stop when it's printed. But when you write it roughly halfway up the digit. That changes the value of all the digits. And the way it does that is that the decimal point is the marker of where the whole number ends and the fraction begins. And the decimal point is always there between the last of the whole numbers, i.e. the units column, and the next column. Now you need to understand what these columns are. We've already covered these. We know that the last number on the right, when you have a whole number, is the units column. Therefore, this 2 is in the units column. A good way to remember it is to say that the decimal point is always to the right of the units. So decimal point is always to the right of units. So the question then is, what's the next column, i.e. which column is the digit 6 now in? Well, again, if I label the columns, we know that the 2 is in the ones or units column because it's the last of the whole numbers. We also know that as you go one column to the left, the next column is worth 10 times more. So 1 times 10 is 10. So the 7 is now in the tens column, making it 72. Now we saw a pattern here, which is that each time we went one column to the left, the next column was worth 10 times the previous column. If we follow that pattern back and go to the right, this is what happens. 10,000 divided by 10 makes 1,000. 1,000 divided by 10 makes 100. 100 divided by 10 makes 10. 10 divided by 10 is 1. So the pattern when you go the other way is that each column is worth 10 times less than the previous column. So if we continue that pattern, 10 divided by 10 is 1. 1 divided by 10 is 1/10, which I'll write as a vulgar fraction, i.e. one number over another. And then, as we go, which by the way means that we have 6/10, and as we go further to the right, the next column is worth 10 times less again. So in other words, 1/10 of 1/10, which is 1/100th, which I'll write as 1 over 100. And in this number we have no hundredths. The next column is worth 10 times less than 1/100th, which is 1/1000th. And in this number we have 5/1000ths. The way we would read this number is 72.605. Don't make the mistake of reading it as 72.605. Don't make the mistake of reading it as 72.605, because it's not 600 anymore. It was 600. Now it's 0.605. So here we have the basics of place value. The main points are that a number and a digit are not the same thing. Numbers are made up of digits in a similar way that words are made up of letters. A number can consist of a single digit, or, as in this case, any number of digits, but in this case 5. The value of the digits in a number depends on their columns or place, and we call this system place value. When you have a decimal point, the decimal point is a marker to let you know where the whole numbers finish and the fractions begin. So the decimal point always comes to the right of the units column and to the left of the tenths column, never anywhere else.